Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Yeah! California is on fire! They're burning it down, ladies and gentlemen.
There's news in America every single day. There are children that cry when their mom or dad, who's an American citizen, that breaks the law, gets arrested and goes to jail. I have watched it, and there's no rioting and looting over that because we understand that we're either a country of laws or we are not a country of laws. Every day we send moms and dads who are American citizens to prison, and we separate them from their families. And you know why we don't feel sorry for them? Because we judge them on the law, and we say if you break the law in America, we put you in jail.
But not if you're an illegal. You can't put them in jail if they're an illegal. Who's gonna pick the watermelon? You don't understand that, Ben Ferguson? Who's going to pick the cantaloupes, the bananas, the strawberries? How are these beautiful porcelain princes and princesses going to get their strawberry smoothie at the local shop? How are they going to get it done? Who's going to pick the strawberries? You can't arrest them. They are above the law. While everyone else isn't above the law. You see the contradiction there that I just made, like out of nowhere? No one is above the law unless they came into the country illegally. That's what it is. Talking about separating families, I know a couple of black kids in the community that I grew up in. Their mamas and their daddies got locked up for drug deals. Huh? Didn't we have a criminal justice system that grabbed mommies and daddies all over the street for selling crack rock? Put them in jail for longer sentences than their white counterparts because they sold rock and the white kids sold powder? I remember that. That was like the argument that the community had growing up. You know, you understand, Reese. The criminal justice system is racist against black people. You know what I'm saying? Because the same amount of crack rock that I got, the white man can have the white powder. And I do 10 years for the crack rock, and he do 6 months for the powder. Even though we got the same amount of drugs, Reese, you don't understand. Criminal justice system is racist and bigoted. And now, where are all of those people, those black power, throw your fist in the air, Al Sharpton rallying, Jesse Jackson Rainbow Coalition Negroes While now people are screaming, you can't separate families when they do something illegal. Where all those kids turn around and goes, I got separated from my mom and dad. He was just trying to put food on the table so he could feed us because he couldn't get a job. There wasn't this empathy for my daddy who got locked up. I don't hear it. I don't hear it. And I'd like to ask a question. Connecticut, Hartford Current in particular. If I remember correctly, this state was running around the whole state in front of Tesla dealerships, screaming fascist and racist towards Elon Musk. But did I see in the Hartford Current today and yesterday people rallying with admitted communists? Did I see them rallying with groups that celebrated Lenin and Stalin and Chairman Mao? Did I see that? Yesterday in the paper, in fact, at the Hartford Current, they had a profile in pictures from yesterday's protests about the ICE raids in Los Angeles. Ain't no ICE raids here yet. But did I see them standing around holding signs and protesting with communists? Let me go one step further. And if I may, I have to applaud myself. One of those communists are going to be on the show tomorrow. He bailed on me today. He wasn't feeling well, but he'll be here tomorrow. We've got to ask, the Communist Party was there yesterday. Did anyone not notice? The Revolutionary Communist Party USA. Did anybody know they were here? I thought that Connecticut was against fascism. I thought they were against racism. The Revolutionary Communist Party. You want to know who these people are? Try this on for size. Do you know when they started accepting gays into their party? It was after Republicans acknowledged homosexuality. I'm not kidding. The Revolutionary Communist Party recognized homosexuality as a way of life, as a legitimate community that could join their ranks in 2001. And they were at protests in Connecticut yesterday. Who was out there celebrating with them? I'm looking at the pictures right now. Let me go to this. It says photos. Rallies in Hartford show solidarity after Sunday's riots in L.A. There's solidarity with riots in Los Angeles. Who was out there with the Revolutionary Communist Party? Well, weirdly enough, the SEIU was out in droves with the Revolutionary Communist Party, the RCP. And folks, if you've seen the pictures, these aren't covert communists. No. They were out there wearing shirts that read RCP with a hammer and sickle on it in bright red and white. Yeah. Free David Huerta. That's what the people who were standing up there. Purple power. Free. And I don't know, David Huerta, he got arrested this weekend in Los Angeles. and the local ICEIu in Hartford had pictures with Huerta's picture on it that said, "Free David Huerta." In 36 hours, everybody had posters. How is that possible? The Revolutionary Communist Party had a sign that says 9 people have died in ICE custody since January 20th. What did they not tell you? Some of those were suicides. They didn't mention it, but that's okay. That's okay. Did they also notice that there were plenty of people who were wearing masks with bullhorns? This ICE tastes like fascism signs. I saw it. Did you? Why didn't anyone ask, hey?
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
What are the communists doing here? Hey, does anybody find it odd that a communist party is out in the streets of Hartford, Connecticut, the United States of America, exercising their free speech rights? Anybody? No one found the irony in that? The communists, hammer and sickle. I remember it wasn't too long ago that people in Connecticut were running around saying, "I stand with Ukraine." There are groups of people outside with a hammer and sickle on their shirts, and you stood with them. Whose side are you on? Are you really so desperate to get the spotlight? Are you so angered and desperate that California is getting all of this love that no one's paying attention to little old Connecticut? Are you so California's little baby sister that you are trying to scream out, "Don't forget about us. We're angry too. We care about illegal immigration in this country. Someone please put the spotlight on us"? Y'all are riding with communists. Where do you stand? Can you do both? Or is it that you're so desperate, anybody who show up to a rally, you'll just align yourselves with them? Huh? Where are the black Israelites? Black Israelites, you got nothing to do this coming weekend. It's a rally against Donald Trump. You should join them as well. Yes, black Israelites, pro-Palestinian, let's be honest, pro-Hamas protesters with keffiyehs on their heads, whatever it takes. Just get it. It's power in numbers, folks. Even if the groups contradict themselves, it doesn't matter. You have one common cause. You hate Trump and MAGA. No one's ever going to hold you accountable. No one's going to look at you and go, well, that's funny. That's PETA. And those groups, they're wearing fur and leather. But you know what? They found a way to get along. It makes sense. Hey, why not call up Antifa? Why not bring more attention to your crowd and bring the Satanists on with you? It doesn't matter. No one's going to hold you accountable. Not one person in the news media is going to ask how the hell you have a hodgepodge of people who contradict themselves all under one umbrella. No one's going to have the audacity to ask you that. You guys are absolutely ridiculous. All of you. It's sad to watch. What makes all of this worse is that you don't even know you're losing the argument. The more this is done, the further down the drain you go. The American people want no more of this. The optics are bad. Want to know how bad they are? Yesterday, Simsbury Joe called up and said that he was outraged that someone would be on American soil standing on a burning vehicle holding up the Mexican flag. Simsbury Joe was righteous in that outrage. He was so righteous, ladies and gentlemen, let me read you this headline. And it's absolutely insane. But Simsbury Joe, you got to pat yourself on the back. LA rioters are now distributing American flags after realizing the horrible optics of waving foreign flags for days. Do you get it now? All of this is turning against you. George Floyd, those riots, that was the turning point. That's a wrap for you. There will be no emotional strong-arming of the American people through emotion and what you consider the moral high ground. You no longer have it. You want to know why? Because you're destructive. Because you're a bunch of 5-year-olds with a Molotov cocktail. You're throwing a tantrum in the cookie aisle, demanding that your needs be met. And America says, go right ahead. We're not budging. Don't take my word for it. Even CNN acknowledges it.
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way, way, way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. No wonder the Times has written up the way that he is. Trump is begging for a fight on this because he knows what he's doing so far is working with the American electorate.
Where does immigration rank on issues for him? How is he doing compared to others?
Yeah, so I think what's so important is it is his top issue so far. And the reason it is his top issue is because take a look at the individual nuggets in here. Why are people approving of Trump on immigration, approve of these different immigration actions, while Trump's administration's program to deport those here illegally? Look at this, 54% approval. How about agents searching your hometown for those that they think are here illegally? Again, positive territory here, above 50% for Donald Trump. So it's not just on the broad issue of immigration where Trump is doing well, it's on the specifics. When you dive into the issues, Trump is above 50% and his actions are above 50%, at least with those most directly connected to what's going on right now out in Los Angeles. So
you're losing. We warned you. We told you. We said keep protesting. We encouraged you. You obviously listened. it's the only thing you'll listen to is when we tell you, go protest, go burn things down, do what you do. We're very, very happy with you. We'll see you this Saturday. We'll be back. It's Reese on the Radio. It's NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Download and like WTIC today for alerts on special programming.
That's right. It's Reese on the Radio. We're back. NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. We've got a guest coming up today. We haven't had him on in a while. Chris Powell from ChrisPowellColumn.com is going to join us today. He wrote a great article. I mentioned it yesterday. Much poverty in Connecticut arises from bad state policy. And I'm going to talk to him about that because there's a companion article, not written by him, another article that's out today that I don't know if Chris knows about it, but maybe he's listening. He could check it out. I thought it was weird. But it's talking about the 6 figures it takes in order to live in Connecticut. And I've talked about this often, being a New Yorker, and what New Yorker, on the outside looking in, what we thought of Connecticut and it being a wealthy place to live. And, yes, my naivete, I knew nothing about New Haven. I knew nothing about Bridgeport. I knew nothing about Hartford proper. But when you thought about Connecticut, I knew people who had gone to places like Greenwich. Every person who I knew who went somewhere in Connecticut went someplace fancy. I remember when we would vacation up in Greenwich and hang out with, our family. There's some royalty in our family. There's so many people I could name in my family who have a little bit of the genome of the royal family of England. Yes. That's why we travel up there to Connecticut very often. Yes. I think that's the whole reason why Connecticut wants to keep all of the slaves, immigrants in the country. I think that's solely the reason why they want to keep them there.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
You got all of these elderly folks standing around screaming for immigration. We need to keep them here. Everybody is legal. I think the true reason why is because, who's going to fetch the tea and crumpets? You can't take these people out of our country. What are you doing, Donald Trump? Who will bring the horses around so that I can gallop on my daily run with the horses? I'm just saying, it looks a little elitist. It just looks a little bit. That's all I'm saying. If you think that's crazy, this is Eddie Glad. And he sounds like Connecticut. He does. He sounds like Connecticut. And let me give you a little headline ripper from this audio clip I'm about to play for you. You have to ask yourself a question based upon what Eddie Glad on MSNBC is about to say. Who is the slave catcher and who is the slave owner? Because he equates this whole thing about ICE going to pick up people at the Home Depot or in the fashion district in California and Los Angeles. He uses the analogy, poorly he even admits, that there is a slave owner, slave catcher, situation going on. The fact that he refers to these people as slaves is all you need to know. But I would like to know who is the slave holder, and the ICE must be the slave catcher. Donald Trump can't be the slave holder because he doesn't want to keep the slave. Democrats do. That's all I'm trying to understand. Here's Eddie Glad.
Oh, will that disappear now that folk have their red meat? Now that they're going to see the spectacle of quote-unquote L.A. on fire, which it's not? Right? What will happen? Will he activate the ugliness that got him in office in the first place? Will folk now declare why they love him? Because we know that he's always good on the immigration question. And then the second thing, this reminds me historically of it's not a clear analogy, but when the nation, when these political factions divided the nation in between slaveholders and slave catchers, when they made everybody with the fugitive slave law, all of us had to, if someone escaped, all of us had to return that particular piece of property to these folk. With ICE running around L.A.
So what is he saying? Returning them to their home country is the slave owner? And ICE is the slave catcher, grabbing them and bringing them back to their home country, and their home country is the slave owner? I don't understand it. I don't know if these people know what they're talking about, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why even say that? And why is it always bringing up the slave analogy when it comes to talking about these people? Talking about them cleaning toilets, talking about them cleaning bathrooms and hotel rooms, picking cotton. I was like, there's no one. Look, I know they're out of touch. Let me say this. This is an interesting point of view. I played this, if you're just joining us, I played Harry Enton of CNN laying out how Donald Trump gained 21 points on the immigration issue since 2017. How polling data has him plus 50%, over 50% on getting illegals out of the country. He's winning this argument. And while this is happening, Democrats are taking the opposition and are losing in this debate. Perhaps the thing that we're missing here is something I've said for far too long. I said it about Chris Murphy, Dick Blumenthal, Lamont, the legislature here in Connecticut. I've said it across the country. What do we know about the Democrat Party when it comes to the American people? What do we know? That what they do is never on the behalf of the people they represent. Never is it. Because elected officials think that they know better than you. They don't have to ask you because they are the moral majority, the moral authority on behavior. Gun control legislation. You don't know what to do with a gun. What you should eat. Where you should live. These elected officials know better than you, and you should never have the choice of protecting yourself or being responsible for where your children live, even what schools you should go to. They don't believe that you have a right to choice, even though you believe it. But I want choice. You don't know what's best. That's why you elected us to do it for you. You don't need to get a job. We're going to bring you universal income, which, by the way, did you hear that's a big story now? Connecticut's really considering it. You don't need a job. You don't need to join the rat race. We'll pay you to stay stagnant in one place, never moving. You'll never have to desire anything in the world. It's the Matrix. You'll never want anything. You'll never need anything. and everything will be provided for you. Your desire for bigger and better and greater things, that only puts you in the rat race. You'll only harm yourself and others in order to get it. In order for you to be successful, someone has to fail. And that's not fair. That's government. That's government every day, all day. You can't be responsible. Let us be responsible for you. So you have that party who says that, you know what, illegal immigration is good for you, even though you know it isn't. They don't work at your behest. They don't work with you in mind. And what is Donald Trump saying? Hey, what do the people want? What are the people thirsting for? What are they saying? How do they feel? Let's do that. Is an overwhelming group of people say we need to get illegals out of here? Fine, let's do that. Working for the will of the people. Democrats can't believe it because, wait a minute, we've owned this. Not anymore. If you don't want to do the will of the people, no one's going to listen to you. You could force it down their throats, but no one wants that. That's what you did for the last, 10 years? Maybe even longer, 14 since the Obama administration? That's what you did. It started when you told people they couldn't oppose Obama and the Affordable Care Act, because if you did, you're a racist. I don't like his tax policies. You're a bigot. You mean I can't have an opinion? No. I can't express what I think? No. If you do, you're a racist. I can't talk to people on social media about what I believe? No. I can't question authority of people? Absolutely not. Because we say it's not helpful. What do you think is happening now? Do you think a bunch of rabble-rousers burning things down like they did in 2020 is going to resonate with people? You're telling them, if you resist us, we're going to blow stuff up. If you don't do what we say, if you don't agree with us, we're going to burn it all down. That's how the Democrats have been running the last 14, 15 years. Do you really think that kind of extortion is going to work? Of course not. So if you're standing up there wondering, why is Donald Trump continuing to poll better than you? It's because he's actually doing the things the people want. You're actually behind the 8 ball on this one. You're not working with the will of the people at all. That's why you lose. We'll take your phone calls in a bit. We've got some breaking news coming up in the next hour. We will get to that. Mark in West Hartford has some surprising news.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Related to the Solomon Schecter School. Story we've been covering here and pretty much only here with the exception of Connecticut Inside Investigator. All right, so roughly about 3:09, Mark in West Hartford is going to join us on the phones and break more news on Solomon Schecter School. He just told me that there's some other breaking news that we can't break because it's private, but let's just say the chips are falling, and not in good ways. We'll get to that when we return. Stick around. More news, more views. Between Rounds promotion. Coming up when we return, it's Reese on the Radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Hey, whoa, hold up. 100 candles on the cake? Who do you think's lighting this?
I actually like that bit. Anyway, we're back. Reese on the Radio, NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. Coming up in headlines, we got Mark from West Hartford with a new update on the Solomon Schecter School. That's going in an interesting direction. We'll have a conversation with him about that. Plus, on the show, on the show today, we got Chris Powell from ChrisPowellColumn.com. We'll talk to him about the poverty situation in Connecticut and how Connecticut is failing to solve that problem in the state, which is something I've been talking about for the longest. And it's nice to have what you say. Again, look, I'm no scholar. A lot of this stuff that I spit is common sense. Like, I go over it and I run it through my head like 1,000 times. I'm no savant, but I run through this stuff 1,000,000 times, and sure enough, I know exactly what I'm talking about. So Chris Powell, will talk to him about that in a companion article that says in order to live in Connecticut, you need to have a 6-figure salary in order to survive in the state. It's interesting because I think there's the story that says Hawaii is the most expensive state for you to live in if you're single. And Connecticut comes in third if you're single living in the state. For a family of 4, it's even more so. In fact, let me see. I'll just go to the article. It says, Connecticut has been sometimes praised and sometimes lampooned for its reputation as an affluent state. But just how much does someone need to earn to live comfortably in a nutmeg state? Data from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Living Wage Calculator answers that question for Connecticut and every other state in the country. Financial website Smart Asset recently released a study on the data. According to Smart Asset and MIT's Living Wage Calculator, a single person in Connecticut would need to earn more than $105,000 a year to live comfortably in Connecticut. A family of 4 with 2 working adults would need more than $290,000 to live comfortably. The study used the 50-20-30 rule, which states 50% of the income should go to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% should go to paying down the debt and savings. To assess comfort is what it says. And there's much more. There's a whole bunch of other data that we'll get into as well. Look, I don't want to sound crazy, but 2 people to live comfortably in Connecticut need to make more than $250,000. That's 2 working adults. And that's a family of 4. So it's 2 working adults with 2 children. You'll live far more comfortably if you're just 2 working adults with no kids. I can see why the birth rate in the state is going down. It makes sense. So we'll talk to Chris Powell about that as well in the next hour. I think he's coming on, 4:15? Yeah, he'll be on in the next hour. We'll talk to him about that. Also, I'm going back and forth with a guy by the name of Eric Goodman. Eric Goodman was one of the people featured in the article in the Hartford Current. He was one of the communists that was there. He's listening to the show because he'd never heard me for the first time. My wife was going, once he hears you, he's not going to come on. He says he's coming on. So I'm looking forward to talk to him tomorrow. If he's still listening, I'm hoping you come in tomorrow. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. There's nothing to be fearful of. He says they're not Stalinist. I don't know how you separate the two, but hopefully he'll call in and explain that to the rest of us. So we got that going on as well. Plus more news and more views. Don't forget, we've got Stupidest Thing I've Read Today. Also, what had happened was, to boot, we got traffic and weather also coming up with Jason Catarinas with weather, and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. John Silva's got news. That's coming up in a quick minute. What was the last thing that I said I needed to make sure that we got in here? I think it was, global warming. We didn't get into it today. I I think I've finally figured out why Greta Thunberg is on this Jew-hating flotilla. I hear she's also been banned out of Israel as well. She said that she got kidnapped. What irony. But I think I know why. I think I know why she's left the climate change argument now. Because new data suggests that we may never have to hear people screaming about global warming again. It's not in vogue, which is weird, but kind of refreshing. What will Al Gore do? He might go broke. If Al Gore can't run around screaming about global warming, I mean, what's he going to do? What's Bill Nye the Science Guy going to do? I apologize. I shouldn't have called him that. That's a slur. He's not a science guy. Bill Nye the engineer guy. That's what he is, because he's not a scientist. I understand Dolph Lundgren is more of a scientist than he is. Dolph Lundgren, who played Drago in Rocky IV, is more of a scientist than Bill Nye the Science Guy. Just think about that. The I must break you guy. That's much more of a scientist than nerdy old Bill Nye. I don't know. I find that interesting. All right. We got to get some news. John Silva's coming up, and we'll be back. Again, Mark in West Hartford's coming up at 3:09. And then we got Chris Powell from chrispowell.com. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. Here's news. John Silva.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC, News Talk 1080.
Going to get to Mark in a second. He's on the line. We're going to break some news in the Solomon Schecter case, but I saw this audio, and I got to get to it. Mayor Karen Bass is, according to reports here, and I'm reading this headline. It says, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass threatens feds to withdraw from L.A. or the violence will escalate. Let's just play her audio.
We need to stop the raids. This should not be happening in our city. It is not warranted, and the only thing it does is contribute to chaos. This was chaos that was started in Washington, D.C. On Thursday, the city was peaceful. On Friday, it was not, because of the intervention of the federal government. We need to.
I'm going to give her a little bit of grace here, but she's not helping. ICE has every right to go into that state and do its duty to get illegals who broke federal law to get them out of state. That's kind of how this works. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get to it. I didn't expect this to happen, but I had a phone call earlier that said we needed to break some more news in the Solomon Schecter case, and so we will. On the line with us, our intrepid on-the-street journalist, Mark in West Hartford's on the line. Mark, so Solomon Schecter is back in the news, or at least you're getting a scoop on something that is about to hit the news again in this case.
So allegations, nonetheless, but I believe that, it's going to come out, soon as far as me having paperwork in my hand to validate it. But, these things, this is sad to report this. When children are involved, it's not gratifying to break stuff like this.
Yeah.
But so let's back up. The first time you and I talked about a school that I really didn't even know much about, Solomon Schecter, it's a private school for the Jewish community in West Hartford. It was a few months ago. I called you on a Friday, and I told you that a teacher had been arrested, Nicholas Ricciardi, for inappropriately touching a kid. His MO is he likes to tickle. And he was arrested. Within 24 hours.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra durable pocket hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Host. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethost.com/terms.
The head of the school, Rabbi Berger, responded to the community with an email. He had been trying to cover things up for months prior to me and you talking about it. The funny thing was, the sad thing rather, is the media took 3 weeks to cover it. So after what I tell you today, I think the opposite is going to happen because the teacher is no longer in the school and he's gone out of the picture. So I think the opposite is where we're not going to hear from the school probably at all, never mind 3 weeks later. But I have a feeling the media who's listening, WFSB, TNH, NBC Connecticut, Fox 61, The Current, I have a feeling you might see something, maybe not in 24 hours, but within 48 hours. So here's the thing. This Nicholas Ricciardo, after we initially talked about Solomon Schecter, what happened a couple months later, and this is what happens with a scandal, similar to what we saw with the Catholic Church. It comes in drips and drabs. Well, we found out he was rearrested for a second case of inappropriate touching from a different school called St. Gabriel's. That was his employer, from prior to Solomon Schecter.
Yeah, so let's make sure that we set. Let's make sure that everybody. So we got an arrest related to the Solomon Schecter school. Then we get a second arrest related to another school that, in essence, has happened before the Solomon Schecter incident. So they actually happen in reverse. We get an arrest on the latter school and then a second arrest on the former school.
Exactly, and that was called St. Gabriel's in Windsor Locks. I believe Windsor or Windsor Locks.
Okay.
Now I get a call this morning telling me that there was an application by the West Hartford Police Department to get another warrant for an arrest for Nicholas Ricciardo again for now another case of inappropriate touching at Solomon Schecter. Now, I just got, it was confirmed. Again, I don't have paperwork in my hand, but I'm going to tell you something. If I'm coming on telling you this, I'm like all in on it. I'm not 99.9%. I'm 100% sure this is all happening. Well, then they went ahead and they signed off on it. And they will be, if he hasn't been arrested, maybe he's being arrested right now as I'm talking to you. But he will now be arrested for a third time. But getting back to what I said about the Catholic Church, I really think that, this is a tough case for parents because I think now they might want to readdress it with their children. They might have talked to them once. Imagine being a parent at either St. Gabriel's or Solomon Schecter. I think I know what I would have done with my 3 boys is say, hey, do you know this teacher? Have you ever been near him? If they're not in the same class, I would start asking, have you ever seen him tickle, touch, rub, hug, whatever, and get to it? Well, now, whether, but, he's a nice guy or whatever. I think now what's going to happen is, when 1 turns to 2 to 3 within a few months, I think Reese, where there's smoke, there's fire,
I think the bigger,
you would probably rather talk about something else, but go ahead.
Oh, no. I think I think the bigger problem here is, and as Mark Fitch of Connecticut Inside Investigator, his story, although focused on this, right, on the touching portion of it, his main focus was the lack of transparency by the Solomon Schecter School. And that becomes problematic because you and I, who have talked about this, for months now, if not almost a year now, we have been covering stories very similar to this that have blown up. The biggest problem that you and I have had, and many people who listen to this program and some parents who listen and don't call in, the biggest problem that they're having is that the people who are supposed to be responsible, the people who are supposed to report these things, manual reporters, what do we call them? We call them, I'm sorry, what's the term that they use?
Mandated reporters.
Mandated reporters, thank you. mandated reporters. These mandated reporters are the ones who are dropping the ball. So it's not so much that we have to focus on the perpetrators. We now have to worry about the establishment, right? It's Solomon. Right now, Solomon Schecter is in the crosshairs because by not doing what they're supposed to do, one report, protect the kids, they protected themselves and admonished the parents who wanted answers. So we're seeing this. Cromwell was the same case, and even in the case with the noose at Rom High School, no one wanted to come forward and tell anyone in the community what they knew and when they knew it and what they were doing to remedy it. And this is where my argument has sort of blown up, is like, what is Connecticut doing by staying silent? And what's worse off is the news media turning a blind eye to it. While the people who they're supposed to be reporting to, while the people they're supposed to be reporting to know nothing.
Well, you brought up Cromwell, which in some cases, I mean, in some of the other cases, I never had this happen. I actually talked to the SRO.
Yeah.
I actually talked to the police officer at Cromwell High School that wouldn't put a formal complaint in when those twins said that they were
assaulted.
Spit on, it was a hate crime.
Yeah.
And I asked him, and that's when I got turned to the chief. Chief said he wouldn't even take my citizen complaint. I literally have it in an email. He said that he won't accept my complaint because I said somebody needs to investigate. To this day, you know that Cromwell Police Department is not investigating that hate crime in Cromwell High School.
Can I tell you can I tell you where I was the most outraged? And you know me, if I pull the race card, it's usually tongue-in-cheek, but I got to mention it. Because at the same amount of time, within months of the Cromwell school story, and for those of you who don't know it, let me give you a quick synopsis. 2 young black girls were assaulted at the Cromwell High School by a white kids, if not, I think it was a white male, were assaulted, spat on, called names. And this was all reported to the school district. We're talking about a racial intimidation case, a racial assault case. And even the NAACP of Hartford or Black Lives Matter 860 said nothing. It was a layup for them, and they were silent. They sooner ran to...
remind you? I'm sorry to interrupt. I got to remind you, Reese. I got a hold of both of them.
Yeah.
And ask them to go with me to the police station. Because even though they said they wouldn't accept me in my complaint, if I showed up with them,
of course they would have.
They were standing over my shoulder. What were they going to do then?
Exactly. They would have written a complaint for Black Lives Matter, for NAACP. They would have written it for them. Here's the crazy part about that. Mind you, while those 2 young ladies were assaulted at Cromwell, right? NAACP doesn't show up. Black Lives Matter 860 doesn't show up. But what did they show up for? A girl who was sent home because her hair was colored wrong and because her father was a former NFL player. Now, again, like I said, it takes all kinds.
And we had Susan Beisowitz and Rosa DeLauro all set to show up at a rally. So guess what? We're taking credit again. You and I shut that down.
Exactly.
I know we did. It was put off to a later date. When's the later date, Scott X. Dale?
Yeah,
and this guy is nowhere to be found. If you notice, when's the last time you saw him in front of the camera or saw a quote in the paper?
Nothing.
In the last year?
Nothing.
This guy knows now. We called him out. We can highlight. He's an easy fraud to expose. Frauds are easy to expose.
But that's another thing. That's another thing that, again, that baffles me with all of this is that, and I'll even go one step further. Back to the Solomon Schecter school, one of the parents, or both of the parents for that matter, who came forward at Solomon Schecter, there was no support for those individuals at all.
No.
Nobody, even in the Jewish community, came forward to protect those parents when they were being maligned by the school. And it's documented in Connecticut Inside Investigator. By the way, no other network and no other newspaper has followed up from that school. This is an absolute cover-up and a crime, but which lends me to believe, Mark, and I think that is 100% true. I believe that the state knows that it's going on, and I think that they want to turn a blind eye. I think that they're accepting that this is behavior that's going on in the state. And I don't think that anyone's ever going to touch it until they're forced to.
And here's the one sad part for me. Again, I use the word sad. I'm angry, everything else, frustrated. Is, I got a couple of friends at TV news stations. And the one that disappointed me the most was, and I won't say any names now because I don't want to burn a bridge just yet. But they said to me, because you and I broke it on the radio, and Mark Fitz covered it on social media, that we basically, there's nothing there. There's nothing else to report. And I had told them, that was just a couple of days ago. I said, what are you talking about? You think this is it?
Yeah.
I said, you don't think there's others? And now look at 2 days later.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
We have a third arrest, and we have TV stations that know about it. They know about it. I know people in other stations. It's not just one. They don't want to cover it. I've sent the email from the mother you interviewed to every news department. I've attached it to the people who answer the phone, tell me, attention me. I sent it. I said, she's willing to get interviewed by anybody, anytime. Not one of not Fox 61, NBC, Connecticut, FSB, or TNH has yet to contact the mother. This never happens, Reese. When I tell you attorneys,
I know,
shut these people down. It never happens.
I know.
And they're not taking her up on her. She's offered. That shouldn't even be an offer.
Again, I do.
After her.
I
She's
really
offering herself.
I really do believe that there are. Look, and again, I couldn't even fathom why it's insanity, but it's just the way that it is.
Can I got to get this in because I don't know about time-wise.
Yeah.
I want to read one thing I came across again today. People send me stuff. It's unbelievable. I'm just going to read this. I have 4 children to provide for. Bills for my house, insurance. I need to survive, to supply for 5 people, including myself. I can't afford the amount they've been taking. This is somebody who's having their wages garnished because of lack of payment on a car. And I'm not going to give anybody's name. Right. But this is the mother of Nick Ricciardo's child. Remember he had a baby?
Yes.
Remember he took a leave of absence?
Yes.
Remember Rabbi Berger was using this thing? But he's not even taking – this baby was born 8 months ago. This lady's raising his baby along with 3 others. This is the type of guy we got, and nobody wants to cover it? Why?
I don't know.
It's sad on so many levels.
I will tell you. Can I tell you what someone did tell me though? I will tell you this off the record. I mean, I told this on the record, but I'll keep their name off the record. Somebody said that this was racially motivated. The non-reporting. That's what I heard.
Well, I mean, do we want to go there? Is he?
I don't know. I don't know. That's like I said.
But I mean, I don't even personally see you talking with. I really, you know what? Maybe it's me brought up in Hartford being a firefighter. I really don't care about skin color.
No, do I?
God, I mean, if it is,
Mark,
then now
Mark,
doubly shame on the media,
Mark,
and Rabbi Berger,
they are.
and everybody
Listen to me,
else.
Mark. These people, unfortunately, are overwhelmingly motivated by things like race and transgenderism and LGBT. It's a totem pole. It's what I call the totem pole of victimhood. And based upon your hierarchy on that totem pole is what they're going to protect. And when this person told me that, it was the last part of our conversation. I said, do you think that played a role? And I really, really thought this person was going to say, oh, no, that's ridiculous. They went, oh, absolutely. That's exactly what I think this is about. So that's where we are.
What's the over and under, Reese, that the local media now will cover, although it took them a while for the first arrest.
Print media.
And the second.
It'll be print media online on any one of the websites. If it's a television network, they'll put it on their website about it. I doubt they'll report it over. And if they do report it, it'll probably be on a weekend broadcast on a Friday.
And now will they double back on their mistake and now talk to
only if the story that you can't tell, if that makes news. Because we have another part of this story, folks, just to let you know. We have another part of the story that we cannot report yet, and that's because of legal reasons. But let me just put it to you this way. It's a very, very damaging part of the story. Let's just say the results of all of this that's going on is going to have a significant and considerable backlash once this particular part of the story comes out. The result or the reaction to said interest in this story, once that part of the story comes out, then they'll start covering it.
Last question. Shouldn't you guys all feed off each other? When I say you guys, I got thinking of like print, radio, and TV. Like for them to tell me because print and radio covered it or social media covered it already, we're not going to cover it because it's not. This is like, do they think that? So I mean, they must think highly of you and Mark Fitch, thinking like, well, they must have got to everybody in Connecticut. We're not going to cover it.
Yeah,
so they think that's it.
I think that might be a newsroom decision, and you have to think about that because if the newsroom says or the editor's desk says, no, we don't want to cover that or there's no interest in it, then they won't cover it. They'll just leave it be. I mean, that's just how it is. It sucks, but it's just how it is. You know, you could have the greatest story ever, but I'll send you a video about that, and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. I'll send you a video about
another story next week. I was going to do it somewhere else, but I think you're going to get it. All right.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Mark Christopher is coming up in traffic. Mark in West Hartford, folks. Of course, with more information on the Solomon Schecter School, another arrest is pending if it hasn't happened already, based upon the same case that happened a couple of months ago. You remember the interview I did with two parents that those children went to the Solomon Schecter School. Those children have both been removed from the school since the incident has taken place and because of the school's reaction to the scandal. And it's growing. It's becoming a groundswell. So the story, I should say, is not over for Solomon Schecter. When this news breaks, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. So we have all of that and much, much more. When we come back, more headlines. Also, Chris Powell of ChrisPowell.com. Again, Chris Powell of ChrisPowell.com. We'll come back talking about poverty in the state of Connecticut and why poor people cannot get ahead, with a companion story about needing 6 figures to live comfortably in the state of Connecticut. Yeah, it's that rough. We'll be back. News is coming up with John Silva, and we'll return. It's Reese on the Radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the Radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. Right for you on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
And we're back. Of course, we got headlines. We finally know why Greta is on a flotilla and not screaming about climate change, and that's primarily because climate change has turned out to be a farce, according to reports. That's what we know. According to satellite data and measurements, there are weather stations that were collected by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's called the NOAA, that between 1998 and 2024 showed that global temperatures are indeed rising, but not always at the pace that early models predicted. For example, the observed warming over the last 25 years has averaged about 0.13 Celsius per decade, which is slightly lower than the 0.2 Celsius per decade projected by some earlier models. In 2023, the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, reported that while the past decade was the warmest on record, several years showed only moderate increases. Some scientists point to these trends as evidence that current climate models may overstate the rate of future warming. You guys might remember that, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were running around telling people, we've only got 12 years. And then 12 years goes by and then nothing, right? 2001, underwater. 2010, underwater. Every year, every 10 years, it's the same nonsense. Well, now it looks like they're going to have to push back, sort of lay back on the climate change thing. I think two things are happening here. I think the first thing that's happening is every year polling data pushes climate change further and further down the top 10 list. I think the last time we checked, it was at 7 or 8. Like, healthcare is always at the top of the list. Climate change always gets lower and lower. I kind of feel like people, live their life for now. As much as you say we have to save the planet for our grandchildren, I have a feeling why that often, falls on deaf ears. Just think about this psychologically. If climate activists are saying we need to restore or protect the planet for future generations, at the same time telling this generation that having children will further pollute the earth, makes them not have future children or grandchildren. So if you're not having kids, there's no future for you to consider because it's just you. Climate activists have made you so selfish. Once you're dead and gone, you're dead and gone. So you don't really have to worry about climate change after that. You've done your part. It's better than buying a Prius. You just get your tubes tied. Just saying. That's it. That's all. Do whatever you need to do. You're never going to have a kid. And that's why worry about the future if there is none for you. That's why I think climate change gets further and further down the list. That's all I'm saying. By the way, DOJ official Ed Martin last month revealed that there are 3 gatekeepers who are allegedly selling access to former President Joe Biden's auto pen. He believes that those 3 staffers were Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, senior White House advisor, Anita Dunn, and Joe Biden attorney, Bob Bauer. They also revealed that there may have been, or very likely have been, a 3rd auto pen that was used for commutations or pardons for the likes of Liz Cheney, Dr. Fauci, Adam Schiff. That investigation is ongoing, but that's what we're hearing as of late. And lastly, before I grab the phone calls, I didn't know this, but, there are a lot of people who have been protesting in Connecticut. And if you've seen it, there are some people who've been putting these signs over the highways. If you drive by 84 or something like that, you'll see that some of these people have put signage over the highways talking about what's going on politically. Screw Trump, or, no totalitarians and all this other stuff. Stop the autocracy, autocracy, I should say. And now there's a report coming out of, what is the, I forget who the company is who wrote the article. And just for some odd reason, I just lost it. And I had it right in front of me. Well, apparently there's some people who are being pulled over. Oh, here it is. This is coming from, which outlet is this? I don't even know which outlet this is. Anyway, Trump protesters on the highway overpasses in Connecticut are getting visits from the Connecticut State Police. At a time which politics has caused significant divisions, protests have become more common, specifically protests over overpasses. A group of those protesters have faced scrutiny in recent months, getting at least 3 visits from state police. What has followed has been an argument over the right to protest and where the protests can happen. Among those protesters is a woman by the name of Catherine Hines, who has taken part in about 30 protests since Trump took office on January 20th. Get a job, Catherine. Get a job. Hines filed a formal complaint against the state police, stating that the time that the officer, or the same officer, had visited her home at least 3 times and alleges the officer's behavior was harassment. And we believe a violation of our constitutional rights, she said. The Connecticut State Police has disagreed, replying officially to Hines that the trooper was acting in accordance with the law and departmental procedures. No arrests have been made and no discipline has been issued. Based upon the facts and circumstances, the trooper had reasonable suspicion to believe that you were engaged in criminal trespass on state property. Hines and her fellow protesters have been seen on several overpasses in the New Haven region with signs that say things like, "No grads, save democracy," and "resistance is not futile." We've only once had the president's name on a sign, Hines said. Mostly they say things that are pretty generic about tariffs or tyranny. Different messages every time. Hines said that 3 times so far at the Cherry Hill Bridge on I-95 in Branford and the Howard Avenue Bridge over I-95 in New Haven, the same trooper approached her group and requested identification. So if you're thinking about doing this, think about it. People are considering pressing charges if you are on state property, so be careful. 860-522-WTIC. I believe in your constitutional rights. Just don't break the law. That's all I'm saying. And don't burn anything down. 860-522-WTIC. Let's take Bruce in South Windsor. How are you, Bruce?
Hey, good, Reese. 2 quick comments I want to make. You were talking about it used to be global warming, now it's climate change.
Yeah.
I don't agree either. But there are 2 things. First point, if you look, you can find there's all sorts of research. The polar ice caps that are falling apart every day and melting used to come all the way down to North America. That's why we had all the granite up. The ice pushed all the granite up. They've been melting for millions and millions and millions of years, and they're going to come back someday.
Yeah.
In another 20 billion years, they're going to come back. The climate changes. That's the first point. Second point, if we just magically, just bear with me, if we stopped, the United States stopped emitting emissions, any pollution, zero pollution tomorrow, it will make absolutely no impact because of China and India.
Indeed. And it's funny because there's a Greenpeace in China that's not allowed to criticize China.
It's amazing. It's amazing. They pollute so much. And we have depleted pollution to a major extent. Factories are very efficient. They have smoke eaters and all that stuff. I don't know all the exact names for it, but our factories we do as much as we can.
Look, everything that we do in this country, if you look at every other industrial country, as you mentioned, India and China in particular, who, by the way, pollute far more. I think it's like 15 coal mines a week China is building. Is that correct? It's something along that line?
Like that, yep.
Yeah. So those guys, and by the way, those countries, India and China, are they a part of the Paris Climate Accord? Yes, they are.
Yep. It's awful.
Right? Is that crazy?
It's crazy. The world, we live in a crazy, crazy world. And those riots, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, all those Democrats, this is the third point. I just saw it. Everyone went after Trump for the January 7th thing, right?
Yeah.
And Trump said, don't riot, stay calm, stay peaceful. These guys are, the mayor, the governor, they're promoting these riots, and no one's going after them like they did after Trump on that.
Isn't that crazy that not one of them have even, again, I'm almost certain I have the audio. Joe Biden did a speech that said not once did Donald Trump even tell his supporters to back down and to go home. And now, look, 5 years later to Karen Bass and to Gavin Newsom, not once have they tweeted the same thing. Not once.
It's a crazy world, my friend.
Yes, it
Keep
is.
doing what you do.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Gosh, he always calls me when I have a couple of minutes left. I may have to. Yeah, you know what? I'll take him now. Dr. Steve, what's going on, sir?
Yeah, I do seem to always do that. I wanted to call and talk about actually a climate change.
Sure. Okay.
And in particular, I'm always amazed, first of all, that climate change is a political issue. Like I struggle as a physician scientist to understand why this is something that seems to cross or end up in party lines.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you what
blame...
If you're not understanding,
Please.
let me tell you briefly why it's a political issue. Because, and I've seen this in a lot of the Senate hearings and the congressional hearings on climate change. In fact, look up what's his name, John Kennedy, Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. Look up some of his exchanges with these people. He asked the one question over and over again: how much is it going to cost taxpayers in order to fulfill their dreams about stopping climate change? And the numbers have always fluctuated in or around $54 to $72 trillion. And that's the political notion, is that, yes, they want us to get these zero emissions, but the two things they can't tell us is, one, how much it would cost, and also what result we get if we went to zero emissions. They don't have that answer. So it's like you want us to do it because you say so, but you don't have any answers. Go ahead.
But that's an argument about strategy. It's not an argument about belief. And I think the problem is that by politicians on the right condemning the cost of making changes, it's interpreted by the public as climate science does not exist or it's invalid, which is patently false and problematic. You can have a financial debate about how to address climate change, but as soon as you start to dismiss that it even exists, then how do we even have a conversation about it, right? I mean, you just provided some statistics. Do you believe, just to make sure we're on the same page here, do you believe that the Earth is warming?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that is driven by human intervention?
No.
So you think that even if there was no humans on the planet right now, this would happen anyway?
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
this past 30 or 40 years, it's just a coincidence that it's going on right now.
And I'll tell you why. And I'm going to use the word belief because one, I always lay my evidence in front of me, but because I wasn't planning on having this discussion, I'm going to use belief. But it is really what I know. But I'm going to put it to you this way. I always use it as, why is it that no one ever counts before human existence what the climate was like on the Earth, when we know that at that time it was far more warm than it is today? And that's a fact.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a question which there's a ready answer to. I mean, it's about the rate of change. You know, the planet has gone through periods of warming and cooling, but the 10 warmest years in the history of the recorded temperatures on Earth have been in the past 15 years.
Right.
And last year, 2024, was the warmest year on record. And this isn't like U.S. Democrats saying this. There's no such thing as a Democrat science and Republican science. This is the global consensus that the 10 warmest years on record have been within the past 15 years. And last year was the warmest year ever. When you're talking about what you're talking about, changes to the planet over its many million year history, of course there's been shifts that happen over hundreds of thousands of years, but never in 50 years. When you see change happening in 50 years, that happens to coincide with the industrialization of man, with like dramatic changes in carbon production on our planet, there's nothing else to blame. We're not closer to the Earth. We're not having like massive changes to our, to other sort of astronomical things. Literally, the only thing that has changed on Earth is the rate at which we are, producing CO2.
Even
if
that's the case, here's one of the cases. This is always the argument, because you know who makes this argument? John Kerry makes this argument often, and he never ever has that conversation. When he's confronted with it, he always looks silly doing it. Have you ever seen that exchange between him and Thomas Massey?
I don't think so.
Okay, I want you to listen to this, and this is exactly why it has become a political issue, because people who are talking about it always stop short of the important facts. Let's listen real quick. Thomas Massey talking to John Kerry about global warming.
Okay.
What's the consensus on parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere?
About 406 today.
Okay, 406. Are you aware?
350 being the level that scientists have said is dangerous.
Okay. Are you aware 350 is dangerous. Wow. Are you aware that since mammals have walked the planet, the average has been over 1,000 parts per million?
Yeah, but we weren't walking the planet. Let me just share with you that we now know that definitively at no point during the past 800,000 years has atmospheric CO2 been as high as it is today.
The reason you chose 800,000 years ago is because for 200 million years before that, it was greater than it is today. And I'm going to submit for the record.
Yeah, but there weren't human beings. I mean, there was a different world, folks. We didn't have 7 billion people.
So how did it get to 2,000 parts per million if we humans weren't here?
Because there were all kinds of geologic events happening on Earth which spewed up.
Did geology stop when we got on the planet?
Mr. Chairman, this is just not a serious conversation.
It is a serious conversation. Did it stop when we got on the planet? And he's suggesting that it was higher before humans hit the Earth, and now it's a problem that it's lower when humans are on the Earth. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't jive. It sounds like a grift. Go ahead, your response.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times a thing doesn't make sense because we're not getting into the weeds to have the detailed conversation about it. So a thing may appear not to make sense, but it's only because you don't have the details to make it make sense. The big factor here, as I alluded to, is the time issue. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a change that's happened in 50 years as opposed to a change that happens over 50,000 years.
Right.
So, yes, the Earth will still exist 1,000 years from now, whether climate change happens or not. But, 30 million years ago, dinosaurs didn't care if the sea levels rose by 2 feet. But boy, is that going to matter to the people who live in Manhattan.
Okay. Now,
you know
again,
I mean?
See, now you're getting into, this is where you get into the weeds, right? So dinosaurs don't have to care because, they got a brain the size of a peanut. But us, but the rest of us, who have morals and ethics, we should be thinking about these things, which again, look, my argument about that is like some people who think that they're being morally, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? I think the moral argument is fair, but not without context. No, not you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I wasn't trying to make a moral argument there.
People always talk about. Look, I think it's nice that people feel like they want to save the planet. I think that they, feeling important, like they are doing their part because they're saving Mother Earth, is a great thing. But a lot of it is lofty at best. It's incredibly lofty.
I think the conversation should be about economics. It shouldn't be about whether climate science is true. That's the thrust of my argument. The entire global consensus is that climate change is happening. It's human driven. There is no such thing as Republican scientists.
Well, how about this
Europe
one? I'll let you go with this one.
Please.
Dr. Steve. Even if it is happening, do we have to look at it in a negative way that it's happening? Because I think that we can accept that the globe is warming or the globe is changing. Yeah. It's the question of whether or not that's a good or a bad thing is the problem, right?
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, that's a conversation worth having.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Steve, as always, man. You're fantastic, man. Thank you so much, man. You have no idea. I love it when you call, man. We'll take a break. Let's get some weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. How we doing, Mark?
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, when we come up, we will have, why am I forgetting his name? Chris Powell from chrispowell.com or chrispowellcolumn.com. Will be on the show. We'll talk to him. In fact, there he is right there. We'll get him on in a couple of minutes. We'll talk to him about his article about the poverty in Connecticut. It's about, there's a little bit of universal income and a little bit of Medicaid spending and Medicaid costs in the article, but we'll talk about all of that because it's so far-reaching for a short article. It's got a lot of stuff in it. I want to talk to him a little bit about another article that I think dovetails it with this about how much it costs to actually live in Connecticut comfortably, and if that may be contributing to why it's so difficult to live in the state. Also, in the next half hour, you may have heard at the top of the hour, John Silva was talking about the Meriden High School kid that has been detained with his father. I'm going to kick a hornet's nest on this story because I find something very peculiar about the reporting. And I think it's being done on purpose. I think there is a lie being told here. And I think that whatever's going on is being done on purpose so that you can be outraged and at the same time have the facts kept from you. And it's an artful little dodge that the media does. I went everywhere looking for this story, and I found one peculiar piece of information that isn't there. And it should be, but it's not. Especially if you want to humanize this story. So I'll talk about that after we have a conversation with Chris Powell. So stick around for that. This Maloney High School kid, something's up, and I know it. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Jason Caterina's got weather. Mark Christopher, he's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
It's Reese on the radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. On News Talk 1080 WTIC.
More news and more views than you can shake a stick at. We will get into the Meriden Maloney High School story in a little bit. But first, we have a guest. I'd like to call him a friend of the room, even though I haven't had him on for a long time. Journalist, reporter, Mr. Chris Powell of ChrisPowellColumn.com is on the line. Welcome back, sir. I know I haven't had you on in a while, but welcome.
Oh, great to be with you, Reese.
So you wrote this article. As soon as I hear it, when I hear this, all you have to do is put poverty in the title, and you lure me right in. Having grown up poor, I'm always interested in the way the media and government deal with poverty in the country. It's kind of the place where everyone goes. They talk about, Bernie Sanders often talking about wealth redistribution and, the oligarchs versus the regular folks and that stuff. But your article talks about the poverty in the state of Connecticut, and you found a connection. I want to read this first line here. It says, poverty has three causes. First is bad luck, like diseases and accidents that are not the fault of the sufferer. Second is bad personal conduct. Third is public policy that incentivizes the second, bad conduct. And I thought, wow, this is a tough article to read in the sense of, if some of these people who are bleeding hearts, for you to say that part of the reason why these people are poor is because of their own misgivings, if you will. Tell me a little bit about what inspired the article.
Oh, Reese, I've been noticing for many years, because I'm of a certain age, that we've been prattling about, alleviating poverty in Connecticut for as long as I've been conscious, and poverty is still there. And I think in some ways it's worse. And I have been trying to get those in authority to kind of audit our poverty policies for signs of success or failure, rather than just stumble on doing what we're doing right now. But I do think in at least two or three big respects, public policy in Connecticut and really nationally is manufacturing poverty more than it's alleviating it.
That's interesting. Do you think, remember the war on poverty, Lyndon B. Johnson, do you think the government is still following that template or just variations of the failed policy? I mean, we spent $52 trillion since the war on poverty. Probably even more than that now. I think the last time I saw that number was sometime in the mid-2000s. So we've spent trillions of dollars on it only to have more and more poverty. But do you think that they were still using the same template?
Well, I think it's been elaborated on, and I think it's been worsened in some respects. I've been asking the people in authority in Connecticut for years, how does a welfare system that incentivizes childbearing outside marriage, that incentivizes raising children without fathers, it incentivizes taking fathers out of the home with their really the structure they bring to the home and the income they bring to the home. How how does this system, removing fathers, help the children growing up in fatherless homes? I never get an answer about that. I've asked our educators, how does social promotion in the schools in Connecticut help the children when they enter the adult world and have to fend for themselves, being uneducated and really having been told, as we have told the underclass in Connecticut for many years, that look, you don't have to learn anything. We're going to advance you from grade to grade. We're going to give you a high school diploma whether you've learned anything or not. The few proficiency tests we give to high school students in Connecticut, like the National Assessment of Educational Progress test, they show that most kids graduating from high school in Connecticut have never mastered high school math and English. Well, people in high school, their parents of the kids in high school, they all know that we're going to graduate you anyway if you don't have to learn.
Yeah.
I wonder, how is that helping them?
I don't know either. We're on the phone with Chris Powell of ChrisPowellColumn.com. Chris, this is an interesting stat you put inside the article. It said about 40% of births in the state are women on Medicaid. That is, women who cannot support themselves but choose to have children anyway. In the era of government-funded contraception and abortion, these pregnancies are not accidents. Most could not happen without the promise of government medical insurance and welfare stipends. So this is, back to the point you were making earlier, but 40% of the births in the state are women on Medicaid, the whole state?
Yeah, and you know what? It is a larger percentage in other states. To me, this is a proclamation of pending disaster. These are the kids that are going to grow up and be in poverty for generations. But it's an old finding. I think maybe 30 years or so ago, a social scientist named David Blankenhorn wrote a book called Fatherless America. He looked into all these fatherless births and determined that, these were not accidents, that these were, young women, teenagers who wanted to have children because they were growing up in fatherless homes without a lot of love and guidance and protection. They wanted somebody to love them, and they figured, well, at least a baby will love me. That these births are not accidents. These are choices, and I think the choices are facilitated by Medicaid and all the benefits we give to people who have children outside marriage. I think it was the Cato Institute a few years ago did a study and found that the cash value of welfare benefits to single parents actually can exceed the cash income of middle-class working people in many instances. Well, I think it was Jack Kemp who used to say that, look, if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it. And we're subsidizing antisocial behavior with welfare policy. We should be discouraging people from having children until they can support themselves, until they're ready to do it. I think even President Obama tried to make that point, though I don't think we did much to put it into policy.
Do you remember? It's so funny you say that about how we're promoting the bad behavior that of some of our inner city. You said President Obama. President Obama gave a speech on Father's Day. That's what Chris is talking about. And the speech that he gave on Father's Day, and I think this was before he was ever elected, he was on the campaign trail, was talking about how we needed more black fathers in the household. And during a segment on the O'Reilly Factor, Reverend Jesse Jackson was there with another gentleman. And before the segment, Jesse Jackson had been caught on a hot mic talking about Barack Obama, berating him. And he had said, and I'll blurt out the expletive that he used, but he said, did you hear Obama out there trying to tell N-words how to live? I want to cut his testicles off. And Bill O'Reilly had that and played it the next day after he appeared on the show. So here we had Barack Obama telling fathers that they needed to be in their children's lives. And a man who was a civil rights leader who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was excoriating him behind it.
Well, we should be putting this question to our elected officials. Is it good or is it bad that children should be born outside marriage? Should children have two parents or not? Is fatherlessness a factor in the poverty we have in the country? Look, I think the 40% figure of Medicaid births in Connecticut, I mean, it should terrify people.
It should. It's freaked me out. I pulled it from this article. It was the thing I wanted to get to most because I would have never guessed it was that. But that's almost half of all births.
Yeah, and you know what? It's worse in other states. Now, that figure, that happening, is one reason why we have the so-called baby bonds program here in Connecticut. The Democrats decided that, 40% of the kids growing up in Connecticut are almost certain to be getting into generational poverty when they get out of high school and enter the working world. So they will enter the working world without any capital. So we have to put some capital aside for every child born on Medicaid in the hope of, we put $3,000 away for them every year in the hope of giving them $12,000, $15,000 in cash when they reach adulthood, so they'll have some capital. Now, whether they'll do the right things with that or whether they'll waste it, I don't know. But rather than try to remediate this poverty with baby bonds, I think we should address the cause of it. And I think growing up fatherlessness, that's a big cause of this poverty. Look, if you bring the father back to the home, at least you can double the income of the home.
Yeah, indeed, you're right. Hey, we're on the phone with Chris Powell of ChrisPowellColumn.com. Chris, let me throw a curveball at you. I don't know if you saw this article, but I saw it, and I thought of you in our interview today. It says it takes more than 6 figures to live comfortably in Connecticut. New England State's MIT finds. So according to this study that MIT did in conjunction with a group of others, it says that a single person in Connecticut would need to earn $105,000 per year. 2 working adults with 2 children, $290,000 a year to live comfortably. With that and your article, that's a heavy lift for a person to live in Connecticut.
Those kinds of surveys tell people, don't have any children at all, and that's a national suicide as well. We've got to make. We got to bring the cost of living down, and there's a 1,000 issues involving there. But the first thing we got to do is stop subsidizing people to impoverish themselves.
Yeah, 100% right. And I think it's overrun here in the state, and I don't know if it's to just be a do-gooder, maybe it's just mismanagement, it's just horrible politics, or I don't know. It sounds like a myriad of things that we have to go through in order to understand why they're doing it and why it's a race to the bottom for a lot of these politicians and a lot of their constituents. Chris Powell, thank you as always, sir. I will bring you back. What's the new article that's coming up? What's coming up next?
Oh, good grief. I just wrote one today about Senator Murphy and his statement that people think the Democrats are as bad as the Republicans, and I agree with him, but I think he's missing the point that one reason they think the Democrats are as bad as the Republicans is Senator Murphy himself. But, that's explained in the column.
Well, it's funny because I brought that up yesterday, I believe. No, 2 days ago. It may have been last week. I just realized it's Tuesday. I think I brought it up last week where he said the biggest problem that Democrats have is a credibility issue on corruption. Yeah, I would totally want to read that. Did you send it out yet, or is it coming out tomorrow?
Oh, no, it won't. I don't think it'll go out till next week.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I look forward to it. And when I read it, if it's interesting enough, I'd love to have you back.
I'd love to harangue your audience, Reese. Thank you.
Not a problem. Chris Powell of ChrisPowellColumn.com. Don't forget to check him out. It's free to do. And you need to, look, man, put a little bit of a paywall on there, man. You should get paid for your work,
If I had any money, I'd pay people to read it.
Thank you, Chris. As always. Thank you, sir.
All right, bye-bye.
You got it. Chris Powell's a good guy. Anytime I call him, whatever I ask, he shows up. So I appreciate him for that. Go check out his article, Much Poverty in Connecticut Arises from Bad State Policy. Perhaps some of these people who need to read it should read it in the legislature, and maybe some Republicans as well. Pick up Chris Powell's comment. I find it every day at Connecticut or ctreport.com. So make sure you get to that as well. Help the guy out. Let him know he's being heard here in Connecticut. Jesse Jackson is a civil rights leader as much as I'm a porn star. Good one, Craig. Let's get another check of weather and traffic, and we've got news coming up. John Silva's got news. Jason Catarino with weather, and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Is it still raining outside? Is the traffic still messed up against that?
Well, no, the rain stopped.
Stay locked in. Reese on the Radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Let's do it.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Stupidest thing I read today, folks, comes out of Meriden, Connecticut. Headline: Meriden High School senior detained by ICE, according to the superintendent. You heard it here at the top of the hour and the bottom of the hour news. The school is going to be holding a vigil for this detained student. No one appears to know why the student has been detained, but they know that the student and their father have been detained by ICE. Now, if you're in Meriden, if you go to that school, if you know somebody at that school, and you got a beef with what I'm about to say, fine. But I'm not stupid. Let me explain why I'm not. Why in the world would we not know who the individual is in this climate? What is the purpose of withholding the name of the student and claiming they are a minor? Just explain that to me. And please don't give me the fluff. Oh, well, he's underage. He's graduating high school. Graduating high school. And if the objective is to draw empathy or concern or even outrage for that matter, shouldn't we know who they are? I mean, hell, they dragged out a 12-year-old photo of Trayvon Martin. Even though at the time he was shot, he was over 6 feet tall and weighed 185 pounds. I mean, at least you let us know who the person is that we're all supposed to be outraged about. But for some sneaky suspicion, nobody knows the person's name. Well, I'm assuming other than the folks over at Meriden, which everybody is being tight-lipped about. But that doesn't make any sense. So because I know I'm not stupid, let me tell you why I know you're withholding the name. Because we'll do our research. And what we may find out may not be very favorable. Otherwise, tell us who it is that we're supposed to be outraged about. You can't just say some kid who we don't know was detained by ICE and say that ICE in some way is wrong because ICE has got such a bad reputation that we could just say, ICE detained them. Bad ICE. I don't know. Who's this person? Who's his father? Why were they detained? If you're not going to tell us any of that, where's the story? This seems very incomplete. I would never publish this story if I was a news editor. Why are they? Precisely for the reason I told you. Because ICE is bad, it doesn't matter. Nameless and faceless individual, you'll be outraged. But I ain't falling for that banana in the tailpipe. We'll talk about it. If you believe I'm out of sorts, let me know, Meriden. 860-522-WTIC.
Self-proclaimed love child of Rush Limbaugh.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Reese on the Radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
I know I got Kim and George on. I know they're calling about the climate change conversation we were having earlier. I promise you guys, I will get back to that. So stay on hold. Don't go anywhere. as I said in the last talk break, this story out of Maloney High School, it doesn't sit well with me. And I'll tell you why. Look, it's a story you exploit. The news media is an agenda-based news media outlet. It's agenda-based. You need a victim. And in this case, the high school boy here, the graduate, it's got all of the markers. He graduated, and he won't be there with his friends because he was detained. Now, I'm not mocking what happened to him. I'm mocking the reporting. That's the story. That's how it's supposed to be sent to you. That's how it's delivered. But I go and I look at the story, and I was like, okay, who's this kid? Why are they doing this to him? How long has he been here? Is he a resident? Was he born here? Is his father an illegal? And the young man was here, brought of his own accord. Was he born here after the fact? Nothing. We respect their privacy. Good. Why is it a story? If you can't say anything about him, if it's something that we're not supposed to, delve into, how can I respect the privacy you brought to my doorstep? That's like you and your, significant other getting into an argument in my backyard and then telling me, hey, respect our privacy. You're in my yard. I can't. Can you leave? Go to your domicile and hash it out. But you put it in the news, everybody reports it, everyone puts out a press release, and then goes, don't ask me any questions. No. You brought it up here. Now I want answers. Who's the kid? Who's his father? Where are they from? Why was he detained? Is he illegal? Is he a member of a gang? Is his father a member of the gang? Did he do anything illegal while he was going to school in Meriden? I want to know it all. You can't just say he's detained, because I know what you want. He was detained. Ice bad. No bueno. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Bob in Middletown. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Reese? What had happened in L.A. was a little Negro nonsense on behalf of the mayor, telling the police, and thank you for that. I thank you every day for that. I just enjoy that humor.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thanks.
And
oh, damn it! I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. Gene in Bloomfield, how are you?
Well, I'm all right. How are you today?
I'm great. What's going on with you?
Well, I just want to know, why is it so important that you need to know that young man's name? I mean, here's the thing. Maybe they just don't want any embarrassment for the child. And let's find out more. But that's a terrible thing, especially if he didn't do anything. And then, that's just an awful thing.
But wait a minute, Gene. Hold on, Gene. With all due respect, as this is being delivered to the news, right? By the news, I should say. This is being delivered by the news. So I'm going to put it in two different contexts, and you tell me, because I understand where you're coming from. So I want to let you know that first off. I know where you're coming from. But let me explain to you where you're coming from and why that would be sufficient. If the neighbors or the kids at the school were going door to door and saying, hello, could you help us try to support or get attorney fees for our friend who was supposed to be graduating, who was detained by ICE with his family. Help us help him. And they had come to your door and asked you for assistance, and you had said, absolutely, I would love to. Here's $2 or $3, whatever the case is. Fine. That I have no problem with, because that is done privately by a group of kids who are trying to help their friend. However, that's not what happened here. A press release went out. A call was made to the news media that everybody hopped up on and told the news media, hey, we got a high school kid that was detained by ICE with his father. And he's about to graduate. And then the news media goes, well, is he illegal? I can't discuss that. Was he in the country illegally? We want to respect his privacy. Now, if I'm the news media, I go, well, I'm not just going to report that the kid got detained and I can't give anybody any details or context. That would be irresponsible as a news outlet. But guess what the news outlet did? They went, I'm going to report it anyway, even though I have no context to give the people. And it's everywhere. And when you go to the story and you go, hey, let's find out about this kid and see if he needs any help. And everything you turn up is, we'd like to respect his privacy. We haven't disclosed who he is or where he's from or how long his family's been here or the reason why they've been detained. But we want you to be aware that he has been. Something is afoot here. And I've got to say, why tell this story and then not tell the story?
Well, here's what I'll say to you. Why don't you get some of these news people on your show? Pin them down.
I do. I do, Gene. I call them all the time, and I say, come on the show and talk to me about why you guys, you know what they tell me? They can't. They can't. They tell me they can't, and they won't. And you know why they won't? Because they don't have any control. The people who are reporting these stories are told what to report. They don't even bother. They don't even have the temerity to question the reporting that they're asked to do. Because, again, you're telling a story about a kid who's been detained in a very volatile situation that is now a nationwide story in Los Angeles. That's the reason why this story is even being reported, because of the ICE detainers that are happening in Los Angeles. And then you report this story to add on, or as I like to say, to pile on. And then when you go to look up the story, because as soon as I heard it by John Vila at the top of the hour, and I said, what's going on with this kid? And then I look it up and I go, no name? No father's name? No nothing? Wait a minute. This is a weird story to report when you got nothing to report. The only story is 2 people were detained, no details?
Well, as I see things in the news, you sure do hear things just like what you're saying, but eventually it comes out. And as much as barking as you doing about it today, it's going to come out as sure as you know.
And Gene, guess what we're going to find out? Here's what we're going to find out. I'll tell you 9 times out of 10. You know the story about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason. And I'm telling you, that's the reason why we're not getting a name now. Because, again, what would I do and what would you do if you found out the person's name and they were? If you're inquisitive, you would say, hey, let me find out about this kid and see if I can help him. And then if you did your research and found out not so nice things, then you would go, wow, why are they promoting this kid? This kid doesn't seem like a person on the up and up. So what I'm saying is, in the absence of information, why is this a story? And no one's going to tell me, and no one has any interest in telling me. Just care because we tell you to. And I'm saying no.
Well, you have every right. We'll see what happens. And I hope that it has a good ending. That's all I hope for. I hope it has a good ending because I'll tell you, everyone that they do pick up is not necessarily all the things that they say, but a lot they have, yes, they have been. So I certainly hope that, I just feel bad for any high school kid, any kid in school, you got enough going against you. But I hope it comes out with a good ending.
I hope he's a good kid. I hope he's a good kid that was wrongfully detained and did nothing wrong. But if that isn't the case, then I put anybody out there who kept that information from us, I hold them responsible because it is their job. And again, it's not their job to protect his integrity. Their job is to protect their integrity. And that's the news media. And their integrity is to tell us the truth. The who, what, when, and where. They're never supposed to tell us why until they know. And in this story, they're giving me nothing. They're not even giving me the who. Thank you, Gene.
All right.
You got it. I'm just saying, they're not even, like, in the who, what, when, where, and why, what are we getting? What?
That was a black grandma.
I know it was.
It was so nice to hear.
But that was, all I got was what? And what? He got detained. Not who, not when, not even where. And they can't give us why because they haven't given us the who. I have never known a story to just give the what. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Any reporting where somebody has said, there was a fire on Market Street yesterday. Now to international news. Where on Market Street? What building? Is everybody okay? Was anyone hurt? That's what I'm saying. I'm reading. You think I'm kidding? Read. Let me. Meriden High School senior detained by ICE, according to superintendent. A high school senior in Meriden was detained at an immigration hearing in Hartford, according to a statement Friday from the Meriden Public School Superintendent Mark Bengini, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The statement says that the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents, did not contact the district nor any Meriden school or public school regarding the student. Quote, while I cannot share the details about specific students, I can assure you that students who meet all of Meriden Public School graduation requirements will be issued a diploma from the Meriden Board of Education. The superintendent said, we respect all families' privacy as they deal with this challenging situation. So here's the superintendent who is the one who put out the press release and told them nothing. And it's a story. Hey, one of our kids was detained by ICE. What happened? I can't reveal that. Will you do a story on it? Absolutely. We'll get right on it. We couldn't get a story covering the Solomon Schecter School with any considerable interest at all. But a story with no name, no context, what it? Headlines everywhere. Somebody explain it to me. It's everywhere. Doesn't make any sense. Let's go to Fred in Middletown before we get out of here. Hello, Fred.
Hey, so that previous caller didn't understand it. She's listening to underground radio right now. You know? Yeah. She thinks, oh, well, all the barking you're doing about it. No, you can scream your lungs out and it stays, you know. The NPR crowd, as Tom used to point out, they never listen to TIC. Yeah. But I wanted to hearken back to climate change there. No less than Joe from Simsbury about a year ago said, climate change is real. And I wrote a poem. I won't give you the whole poem. The first line, climate change is real, and so is the flu. So what, if anything, is anyone or someone or everyone to do? As regards climate change, stop emitting CO2. Yeah, when they say, like, you know, reduce the carbon, they mean you and me.
Yeah,
you know?
all of us. Exactly.
Yeah. And then Greta, oh, my God, somebody called that a selfie yacht.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess they had, like, one truckload of, rations on there. Yeah, that was
my favorite part is when she says, I was kidnapped. I'm like, read the room, idiot. Read the room. I was kidnapped.
And and they were forced to watch October 7th video.
I know.
I know. All okay. I wouldn't let 1 minute of that into my brain. I haven't seen it, and I have no intention of ever looking at any of that stuff.
You and I both, my friend. You and I both.
Yep.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you,
appreciate
bye-bye.
you. We'll get to Kim and Cromwell in a second to talk about that climate change thing. But again, look, I just want to know. You kids going to be holding a vigil in his name. Will the signs have his name at the Meriden High School when you guys go to graduation? Will you have signs with his name? Will you have his picture up like David Huerta, the head of the SEIU? Will you have a picture of him? So at least the rest of us can know who he is so we can understand his plight. I think that's fair. You want us to have empathy, we should at least know who we're having empathy for. Bob Larson's got weather today. Damn it, I still want to say Jason Caterina. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Get to the phone calls in a second, and we'll talk to you about what's going on in all the news.
I still don't know what had happened was.
What had happened was.
And what had happened was, we talked about at the beginning of the show, what's going on in Connecticut, that there were so many different groups that were associated with so many different things, why they were protesting in Connecticut, trying so hard to grab some attention from the L.A. riots, that they would even invite people a part of the Communist Party. While screaming against fascism, they were out protesting with members of the Communist Party. We will have one of those communists on the show tomorrow by the name of Eric Goodman. He was one of the gentlemen featured in the Hartford Current yesterday and today. You'll see him. He's wearing a red shirt that says the Revolutionary Communists of America with a hammer and sickle on it. All this while Democrats are supporting Ukraine. I'll try to figure it out. Maybe Eric can help me, but he's calling tomorrow at 4 o'clock to talk about all of that. That's what you missed. Also, Mark from West Hartford with breaking news that Solomon Schecter School, the teacher who was arrested, has been going to be charged a third time for tickling children at that school, a second time at that school, one time at another school previous to working at Solomon Schecter School. We did not mention, and I forgot, please forgive me, we did not mention between rounds, Carol J. of Cromwell was our winner today of the Between Rounds dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe. And if you want to win a prize of a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, you got to go to reeseontheradio.com. That's REESE on the radio.com. Go there now. There's a little fill-out form there. Make sure you get your date of birth in there and your telephone number and all that good stuff. Someone will contact you immediately so that you can win. Winners are named every day. You must live in the state of Connecticut, and you could not have won within the last 6 months. Go to reeseontheradio.com for that. Bob Larson's got weather. Mark Christopher has got your BPS traffic in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Reese on the Radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Drop it. Yeah, goodness gracious. We're back. It's Reese on the Radio. We'll get to the phones. Quick second. I just got a great text message. I'm not going to read who it's from because I'm sure they want to stay anonymous. They say, great points. If you want to remain anonymous, why are you bothering us with the story? It's such a good point. Why are you bothering us? I don't. And I think that I really do believe this. I think the purpose of it by the superintendent was to intentionally, it was a mission. He probably doesn't like Trump, probably doesn't like ICE. And this was his way to be a rabble-rouser. And, this was typical. Everybody chomping at the bit. Yeah, sure. We can make this local. I don't know. Whatever. Let's get back to the climate change conversation. I know Kim is really interested in that. How are you, dear?
All right. The gentleman's way of reasoning was way off. First of all, we don't do science by consensus or survey or polls and go by what the scientists feel today. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
It sounds like he's going off more or less literature from the last couple decades. Mm-hmm. Is people need to understand the genuine processes of the earth and the skies and the ocean. Okay, that's all rooted in earth science. Right. Geology doesn't stop. The atmosphere doesn't stop, and neither does the ocean. It all marches on, but to its own beat. There's no rule that describes, like, it has to be fast or slow, and then to go and figure, well, we've had all these events in recent years, it must be due to mankind.
Right.
You really have to look into the other things that compose your weather. Number one, you've got the sun. Right. Okay, you have to understand the properties of light. But the major things are you have the jet stream, which is what moves the mass of air around. And yes, the jet stream is funked up.
You are one of the you're one of the only ones Out of all the people I've talked to about climate change, you may be the second person who talked about the jet stream, because that's something I learned in junior high school.
Yeah, exactly. And what people don't know, there are actually 3 jet streams. And you can follow it in the digital age. You can follow it on any of the weather sites today. It has, software to monitor, and you could see how split apart it is. Then we have the El Nino La Nina cycle.
Right.
That indeed is an anomaly. We could call that a climate change. It comes and goes when it wants to. We have no control over it. There, the planet itself, the atmosphere is very differentiated, and different air masses hang around different latitudes and longitudes, and every so often they waltz in and out of their zones. These are all natural forces of physics. But to go and chase one gas because the left hates the oil companies, a gas that is only it doesn't have this power.
Yeah.
It's only 0.04%.
But you know what, Kim, you make a good point in sort of the psychology of getting the masses up in arms, as it will, with CO2, right? What you do is you invent the villain. You invent the villain by saying that this is the ominous thing. And it's funny because usually on the left, it's always the same pattern, because what's their argument about the AR-15? That it's military style. It doesn't matter that it fires like any other semi-automatic weapon. It's the fact that it looks scary. That's why it needs to be removed. The same thing with oil. Oil means and forgetting, because most Americans don't realize it. When you tell them, some of them are always stunned. They go, do you understand that petrol and oil in general, it is in everything everything around us.
It's in everything.
Yeah, it's like if you get rid of it, we lose everything. They only attribute it to oil and gas. They forget it fuels everything. And when you tell them...
We don't do a good job with education.
That's
and the
true.
way the media has blasted the airwaves with this. I mean, if they were really complaining about, say, uncomfortable weather, you would go after water vapor. And let's say, I get these questions on Quora all the time. Maybe we can evaporate all the oceans and all your humidity would go away. Good luck. Because water vapor is what makes a summer day miserable. When you get, which typical of the Northeast and the Southeast, is the presence of water vapor there. A hot, dry day is very pleasant.
Yeah.
But, if you're stuck in a particular region, you're going to get that hot and humid stuff. It's due to water vapor. Your sweat cannot evaporate.
Exactly.
There's no room.
Yeah. Kim, thank you, as always. You are always fantastic. I love you on all these subjects.
Some kind of talk at some bar.
You know what?
For anybody who wants to learn.
You absolutely right. In fact, I'm going to make sure. I'm going to link this on my Facebook page. There's a movie
put it
called...
on the site, and we'll get people who really want to know to take any questions.
You got it. There's this thing called Climate the Movie. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one that talks about the sun. And how scientists, that was when I first really started to recognize what was going on there. But it's such a great movie. I got my wife watching it, too. I was just sitting around watching it, and then she ended up watching it with me. And now she's like, oh, my goodness, I knew none of this stuff. Such an education.
Really?
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. Always. Thank you so much. Let's go to Fulton in Waterbury. How are you doing, sir?
What's up, buddy? I don't know if I believe in climate change, but I live in Connecticut, so I hope it speeds up a little bit because I'd like to live it like this.
Yeah, it better speed up for my wife because she's not ready for the cold.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You guys are moving here. You're moving to the perfect place. It's going to be beautiful, like Florida here. So, the other thing I have to say is the Meriden kid, okay?
Yeah.
I looked this up. They're calling him Kevin the immigrant, okay? So
No,
Kevin,
they're not.
Wait.
Hold on. Where did you hear this?
I looked it up. It was an hour ago. They say Kevin, and they're gonna have a chair open at the graduation for him. Nobody was appalled when he was taken into custody, right? When did that happen? Like a couple weeks ago, taken into custody. Nobody said anything then. They're only mad at the graduation now, right? I think this is a virtue thing.
I totally do. So his name is Kevin?
That's what they're saying. They're going, Kevin. I'm like, okay, Kevin the immigrant. That really, what is he, from Ireland? Give me a break.
Yeah, thank you. So, you know what? I'm starting to think that there's a Home Alone reference in all of this.
I think this is a big virtue signal. Like, oh, we feel so bad. Let's fly the missing man formation like military does. We'll have the empty seat for Kevin.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, that's they're going to pull out all the stops on this one. I think we're being played, but it's a good point. Now that I know his name, now I'm never going to let go of this story. I'm never letting go now. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. That's it. I'm addicted to this story now. Kevin. What a name. It's the perfect name. All right, I'll tell you this story before I take the rest of the calls. And by the way, if you want to call in about this Meriden kid, please do. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. Now hear me out. So this really happened, but it's kind of messed up. So back in my 20s, I would always go out and hang out with this girl, Brittany. We were dating at the time. We lived together and stuff like that. And every time we would go somewhere, someone would see me and go, Kevin. And I go, nope, not me. I'm Reese. And they go, man, you look just like this guy, Kevin. I'm like, nope, no, that's not me. And they're like, damn, you really do look like him. Like everything, size, weight, everything, body, even the way that you sound exactly like the guy. No, I'm sure it's not me. You didn't hang out in such and such? Nah, definitely not me. Anyway, years and years go by. Sure enough, again, hey, man, you look exactly like this guy, Kevin. Different person entirely. Do you know him? I'm like, nope, that's not me. I said, you know what? I get that a lot. Everybody always tells me I look like this guy, Kevin. He's like, obviously, he's my twin. I would love to meet this guy, but no, I'm not him. This went on for years, 7 years, at least twice, maybe 3 times a year. Kevin. One day, we're hanging out at an after-hours spot in Queens. And I'm sitting there, and this guy comes over, and he's had a few, and he starts talking to us, and we don't want to have anything to do with him. And we decide we're not going to engage him and whatnot. And so he goes, hey, man, what's your guy's name? So I tell him, Brittany's name she's Melanie. And he goes, what's your name? And I go, Kevin. So we leave, and Brittany goes, why did you give him that name? I said, I always give that name. Yes, it turned out that all of those people who saw me, they really did know me. But I told them my name was Kevin. And when they saw me again, I pretended I wasn't that guy. No, my name is Reese. I'm not that guy you're looking for. Happened every time. So for years, I was this Kevin. It's a perfect name. Everybody thinks that they're a Kevin. It's a perfect name. Let's go to Mike in Plainville. How are you, sir?
I was mistaken for someone else years ago. I would look at the guy. You remind me of so-and-so. I said, my name is Thor.
What do you got on this? What do you got on this Meriden kid? Do you think that?
I don't know.
Are we being duped here?
I haven't been following it. I wanted to make some comments about climate change.
Oh,
It's all natural. It's all natural, and I wanted to make my biggest point is about the mayor of L.A. Talk about Dumb and Dumber. We will not tolerate this type of act. Really, it's the 4th day in, and you're standing there behind a podium saying you're not going to tolerate it. What is her name? Where did she come from?
Karen Bass.
How the hell did she get into an office like that? How do these people get in? I don't get it.
Karen Bass has, what do you say? I got friends in low places. Karen's got friends in low places. She is incompetent. She's always been incompetent. Everything on her resume is nothing more than a resume builder. She's never earned or accomplished anything. And that's who Karen Bass is. And when you get them in, again, I'm so glad that she's the mayor of Los Angeles so we can really realize how incompetent these people are.
Second comment.
Yeah.
You really need to create a task force in Hartford for empty parking lots and empty property. I would, if I was the mayor, I'd get the police chief and maybe the director of public works. 3 people.
Oh, you're talking about empty parking lots that no one's using.
Yeah, I mean, he wants it. They announced it. They want to create a task force to look into this.
You're talking about right? He's talking about I thought it was an alleyway thing that he wanted to clean up, not parking lots. I think it was alleyways. I think he wants to make that. I think he wants to turn them into homes.
Somebody ought to enlarge a picture of Chris Murphy walking through New Milford talking to people. Talk about that's even more. I don't know, Dumb and Dumber. You got 3 people standing there. I wouldn't take a second to stop and even acknowledge the guy.
That's okay. He's doing a world tour. That's what Chris Murphy's doing. Thank you, Mike. Last but not least, before we take a break, let's go to Ken and Tallinn. How you doing, Ken?
Well, I have a mouthful of food I'm trying to eat, but it's hard to believe that people call up with the ignorant things they're saying.
What's the ignorant thing?
You've got Johnson saying he wants to tar and feather the governor of California, right?
Who
say that?
Who's Johnson and who said they wanted to tar and feather the governor?
Mega Mike Johnson.
Oh, I don't know.
It's all over the place. He wants to tar and feather the governor of California.
Okay.
Is he trying to get violence going?
Oh, you mean as opposed to the violence that's already happening there? I think when you say tar and feather, we understand what that means.
Oh, what's that mean?
It's called being figurative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really believe that. You don't really believe that people do that, do you? You don't really believe that people tar and feather individuals, do you?
Oh, well, why would you say an ignorant thing like that? I want to say one more thing.
Of course you can.
Due process.
What about
I know your history. Okay? If you didn't have due process years ago for what you were charged with,
yes,
and you were locked up in jail, wouldn't you be a little pissed off?
I think that I was a little pissed off, and since you're bringing it up, let's go there. Let's talk about due process. Hold on. Let's talk about due process. Are you under the impression that, are you under the impression that that's what's happening with these illegals? You under the impression that they're not receiving due process? Are you suggesting that the reason why, are you suggesting the reason why, Ken, stay for a second. Ken,
all over the news.
Ken,
all over the news.
Stay for a second. You might learn something. Do you believe that ICE agents know where these individuals are because they haven't been processed? Because they haven't had due process? The reason why people know where they are, the reason why people know where they are is because there is
kind of all mouth. You're kind of all mouth, and you don't listen to people.
Actually, Ken, I did listen to you, and you tried to be associative in your commentary, and I'm giving you an opportunity to learn something from you trying to associate the story. So since we're associating it, since we're associating it, I'm going to give you the background. The background of this is that the reason why they knew where to find these individuals is because they had a due process. They either had deportation orders, or they've committed crimes and they needed to be removed from the country. Did you know? Did you know any of that, Ken?
Believe that?
Ken?
Do you honestly believe that?
Well, that's funny, Ken, because what I hear you saying is that the only thing we should believe is what you believe.
No, not what I believe.
That's what I thought you said, Ken.
This is the United States of America.
Ken, that's exactly what you said. And I understand. He's a pleasure, isn't he? Let's get another check of the weather and traffic. Bob Larson's got weather, and Mark Christmer's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. All right, we're back. It's Reese on the Radio. I want to read a couple of the comments on Facebook here because I see that they're kind of jumping up here a little bit. Let me see. Donald says the country must arrest the rate of poverty. He's, of course, referencing my conversation with Chris Powell of ChrisPowellColumn.com. He says greed is the enemy. No, it's not. Greed is not the enemy. There is no enemy in that argument. But you can blame it on greed. That's like saying everybody with money is greedy. If you have money, you should give it up. I make this argument to these people who are so morally superior than everyone else. My response to it is always, you first. If you want us to live by example, you first. Give up all your money, all of your earthly treasures, give them up. Take a life of poverty. Stop telling everybody else what to do with their money. It's easy for you to spend my money. It ain't yours. But if you really believe that greed is the answer, stop being greedy. Give up what you have. Get a smaller home. Live in a one-bedroom apartment. Live in a low-income apartment. Share your earthly wares. If you want, like I said, you first. Timmy is also in there. It says, occupied Los Angeles. He actually said this, and I thought this was funny. He says, gangs at Home Depot. Have you been to Home Depot? Do you know who's at Home Depot? Do you not think that somebody who's standing outside of a Home Depot as a day laborer, a young man, can't possibly have gang ties? It's absolutely beyond the scope of reality. How do you know this? You seem to be this expert on gang activity outside of the Home Depot. Are you bringing these individuals home, making them a tortilla sandwich? Are you having burritos with these individuals, sitting down? Huh? Tell me. Gangs at the it's beyond the pale. That's impossible. Seriously? Let me tell you what your interest in Mexican lifestyles are. Going to Taco Bell ain't one of them. Let's just put it that way. Okay? Please spare me. I'm just saying. Gangs at Home Depot? How could that be? Gangs everywhere. Gangs everywhere. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Bob Larson is in for Jason Caterina. Mark Christmas in the BPS Traffic Center.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is. You know who it is. You know who it is. It's Reese on the Radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're going to get into the lightning round.
Lightning round, lightning round, lightning round, lightning round, lightning round.
Yes, the lightning round before we get up out of here. And
that actually sounded good.
Yeah, it does sound good. We'll do that at the end of every show. We'll get to your phone calls at 860-522-WTIC. If you want to leave a lasting legacy on the show at the end of it, you can call up 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. You can opine about anything we covered throughout the 4 hours, from everything from what took place in L.A. to the rallies that happened here in Connecticut, also the Solomon Schecter School news, as well as the conversation I had with Chris Powell from ChrisPowellColumn.com. Stupidest thing I read today, which was about the Meriden High School kid, the Maloney High School kid, named Kevin, as it were. We'll find out about that as well. Let's go to Doc in Howington first. Hey, Doc.
Hey, how you doing? Long time no speak.
I know.
A couple quick things. I can kind of understand the guys thinking of gangs with Home Depot because it's not really a Congress or something you would think of as going together.
Right.
But he's wrong. But the other thing is, I didn't realize getting a deportation warrant from an immigration judge or getting an arrest warrant from a judge is not due process.
Because they don't understand what that means. That's the whole deal. They are under the impression, right? Now, first of all, how do you think they found the individuals in the first place, right? Like ICE didn't just run through. They're under the impression that ICE is just running through towns and going, you're a brown person, get in the van. It's like not happening like that. They know where these... They know where these individuals are. They know that they have either overstayed their visa or they have not come to court when they were supposed to find out if they were going to be deported. They came into the country, as many of them do, and did not ever come back to court. The objective was, it was a catch and release program. that Biden allowed them to come in, and they were never coming in to find out if they could stay or if their asylum needs were going to be met. They just got in. Now they're being deported, and people are saying there's no due process. Yes, there was.
Catch and release works for fishing, not for people.
Indeed it does. At least the fish know what they're doing when they go back.
Right.
It's crazy, but, I don't understand why they don't get it and why they haven't gotten it. But this whole argument and, everybody's got to have their due process. Well, I would make the argument the difference between me and them is that I didn't come into the country illegally.
Right.
That's my argument. And to equate
they
them...
don't want to understand.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They don't want to understand.
No, they don't want to understand.
They do not want to understand.
Yeah, and again, trying to equate them, and this is the other thing that I cannot understand, and this shows exactly how much disdain they have for the American people. They would sooner fight for the rights of an illegal than they would fight for the rights for any American who didn't agree with them.
Chris Murphy.
Yeah, they see more value. And you saw that in the exchange he had with the woman during his walk. And the woman asking him a legitimate question, and he immediately dismissed her as a racist. Because, again, the most important constituency to him, his words, not mine, are those illegals.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not what we pay him for.
Exactly. You couldn't be more right. Thank you, Doc, and welcome back, sir. It has been a minute. Let's get to, of course, our last but not least caller, who always calls at the end of the show with something shocking, if not irreverent, at the same time. White Mike is on the line. How are you, sir?
Oh, man, I'm good. Well,
happy birthday. Happy birthday, by the way.
By the way, thank you very much, and I'll let you know that Shaniqua at work is now totally in love with me, and the ladies I work with are so furious they could spit.
For those of you who don't know, White Mike has taken on a cat, a somewhat stray cat, at his office. She is a black cat that he is affectionately referred to as Shaniqua. We're all excited that White Mike has a black woman in his life, and I think it's appropriate.
And now here's the controversial thing I'm going to say today.
All right, protect the license. Go ahead. What do you got?
We should be stacking bodies in Los Angeles right now.
Oh, you're saying that the police have had way too much restraint with the amount of violence that is happening against them with the throwing of bricks and rocks and all that stuff. Yeah, look, people are saying that no one seems to be paying attention to the fact that the LAPD of all police departments has not fired a shot.
They should be all assuming the room temperature challenge and winning the wet T-shirt contest as far as I'm concerned. It's done. I'm tired of these people. It's an insurrection. These are communists. Our outside communists are funding these people.
Indeed.
We all saw the story about the truckload of $60 trauma masks that showed up, brand new in boxes yesterday. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, being driven by a white guy in a car with out-of-state temporary plates delivering these things. Well, who's paying for this?
Did you see the report from the Gateway Pundit that says now some of these agitators, realizing that the Mexican flag is giving off the wrong optics, are now handing out American flags?
Yeah, so they can burn them. Yeah. It's time to send these people a message. If they don't want to either assume room temperature or end up deported to Mexico, and by the way, why don't we just send these people to random crap hole South American countries? They don't have to go back to Mexico. We send them to Paraguay. Let's send them to Colombia. Let's mess them up. Let's send them all to the tip of Chile and see how long it takes them to walk back.
The tip of Chile. First of all, the fact that you manage Paraguay in all of that's a country rarely ever referenced. I don't know. Look, I'll tell you this. I don't want this to turn into Kent State. Okay? That never looks good. I know what you're saying. The frustration is obvious. A lot of Americans are just going, this cannot stand. But look, they've got any other way, the optics, unless, and that's probably what's going to happen, and I see it happening, there is going to be what I refer to as the perfect storm, in essence, where the story can be spun either way. A police officer, a National Guardsman, or maybe even a Marine, if they do end up there, is in a situation where his life is in danger. Oh, you know what? I'll give you the perfect scenario to give you the right angle. The kid, why am I forgetting it? Rittenhouse. The perfect storm, where the video evidence creates that thing where some people can say it was vigilantism and some people can say it was self-defense. I'm feeling that that's what's going to happen in this scenario where one of these people, these agitators, are going to get in front of a National Guardsman. Definitely, I feel like a National Guardsman, where he is going to have to protect himself. And the only way he can do that, and innocent bystanders, is to take a life. And that's going to be the argument. And I dread that day, but I think we're going to get there. I think that's got to happen.
I don't want Kent State. I want My Lai. I want hundreds of them in the streets. Hundreds.
I don't, because it's not, listen, it never ends well, because remember the optics. This is like, look, man, how do we turn into a country that sympathizes with Hamas supporters? How did we get here? Why? Because after September 11th, after 5 years after September 11th, we became a nation that instead of getting rid of terrorists, asked why do they hate us and started blaming themselves.
No, I think that particular situation is because there are some Hamas supporters, and there are just some people who are tired of being told only one side of the story and being told only one side of the people is bad over there, when legitimately they're all buttholes. All of them.
No, I'm not disputing that, but I'm saying if you look at, I'm going with the most extreme here, and I get you, it's far more nuanced than I'm describing it, and you're right there. But my debate here with that is like, I always think of that 60 Minutes interview where the Black Ops guy talked about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And he said that he was interviewing Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and Khalid says to him, your American media will turn against you. And sure enough, that's what happened. They started to empathize. When they found out Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was allegedly waterboarded 183 times, what did the news media do with that? They ended up victimizing Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He became the victim.
Yeah, the news media doesn't really have the pull they used to.
No, I understand that.
It's done. And my God, buddy, I know I'm getting long here, but whenever I watch Instagram and read comments, look at YouTube, these people commenting are saying some wild stuff, even for me. There are so many people out there that love Adolf Hitler. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And, it's not a bunch of crazy people. These are regular people, both on the left and the right.
It's a wild, wild west.
Dig this.
I know it's a wild, wild west thing out there now, and it's far more tenuous than it used to be.
Once you remove any kind of restriction and you let people say what they want, they tend to say some wild stuff.
That they do. You have a wonderful birthday with Shaniqua. You hear us?
And yes, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you. White Mike, ladies and gentlemen. Always a wild card. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing else I can do today after talking to him. Yeah, the internet, it's funny because I don't think I've ever been more afraid of a thing than I am on the internet. And I'll go back to, was it Daniel Pearl? I think that was it. Daniel Pearl was one of the moments where I knew that the internet was going to be a dark place. It was before I'd ever really understood what they called the dark web. But we were sitting in Power 104 studios. Not going to say their name now because they're now defunct. But we were in those studios, and they had just released, or we found out, everyone was emailing the video of Daniel Pearl. And, I don't need to say, how he died. And they said that there was a video of it that they had released, that the terrorist had released. And I remember being in the studio and everybody rushing out of the studio to go into the office to go see the video. I refused. I'm like, I don't want that in my head. I don't. I've never seen it. I refuse to. Still haven't seen it to this day. Everyone told me that it was important for me to view as a reporter. I said, no. Nope. That's not one of those things like, you know, it would, the same logic would be, in order for me to report on a murder, I have to witness it. Like, by that same logic. And I was just like, no, I'm just not. And I felt in that moment, I'm not going to say any names like who it was that was running, but there was, to Mike's point, there was an excitement to see that on the internet as people were running into the office. It was like, I got to see it. And that, even the thought of it still gives me chills to this day. But I think that's where we are. There is a wild, wild west out there that loves that kind of insanity, that crazy, disgusting stuff. Anyway, what's today? Tuesday? Oh, man, we got a full week. This, for the first time, Roland, this is the first time the week has felt like it slowed down.
Why? Because you got an extra hour?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. I think it's slowed down because we have the extra hour. I can't believe it's Tuesday. It really feels like everything is slow. I'm loving every bit of this. Oh, by the way, on tomorrow's show, I'll double check and I'll let you know. Eric Goodman, who is of the Revolutionary Communists of America, he was at the protest yesterday. He will be on the show tomorrow, I think at 4:30. I plan on him being at 4:30 today, but I guess he'll just be, he said he texted me and he said he'll be on tomorrow. He listened to the show. Now he knows what he's getting into, so he shouldn't be afraid. He should know exactly what the deal is. So we'll have him tomorrow. I don't know if we have any other guests, but I think we'll keep him on for a little while and talk to him about the Communist Party and find out how communists and supporting Ukraine, how they do both. He's got an interesting website. They're even fighting for brothers, my people, on their website. I didn't even know. I didn't know. Apparently they're working on black justice, the Communist Party. I don't know. I can't stop laughing at that. As soon as I read it, I went, black justice? What's this? Oh, no. It's never a good thing when you call it black justice. Sounds like a comic book. Anyway, whatever. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the Radio. You have a good night, pleasant tomorrow. Bob Larson's got weather. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Jason Caterina, get back here.
Have a great night, Reese.
You got it.
Hey, if you're heading into Hartford right now.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
Systems, a 100% employee.
I can't believe it. I can't stop saying it. It's in my head. And I can't stop
yeah, because he's a regular. That's why.
47
I got my
Street,
head to
short
say it
delay
every
there.
time.
84 eastbound's a little tight now.
Can't
About a
help
half
it.
mile before 46.
All right, manana.
See you mañana.
34 down to 32 A and B. Again, a little tight as you move between 25 S&N and Weathersfield down to 24 for the Silestine Highway.
Richard, you're a mess. Good show today, Kevin. Thanks, man. That's what I get. That's exactly what I get. Reese, this is a perfect example of you giving white people much time. You need to spew Roger. Oh, stop whining, Donald. Have you ever noticed that the people who show no empathy for the poor label themselves as a follower of Christ? I don't know. So? I don't know what that's supposed to mean. So full of hope you'll learn or not. That's right. Oh, it's been a pleasure, folks. All right, I don't want to read all these all day. I got plenty of stuff to do. All right, you guys be good. Stay out of trouble. Darn it, I keep knocking this thing down. All right, love you guys.